Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday night. That means we are on Direct Line Live. Tonight, I am your main host, Jackie Sackstein, joined by my co-host, Mark Uncapher, and we are so happy to be joined by Kathy Szeliga because tonight we are talking about the Year of the Republican Woman. Kathy, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me on. This is always fun.
Yes. Well, I mean, if there's one thing, if we're always looking at the positives of the outcome of this year's election, the biggest thing that we've been hearing is it's the Year of the Republican Woman. I mean, we've seen so many amazing outcomes and a lot of firsts for women. You know, obviously, Kamala Harris is looking like it's going to be the first vice president or the first female vice president that we've had. But for us, we've had, I think it was the first Native American senator female, the first, I think, Korean female senator or House member. I mean, we ticked all kinds of boxes. It really has been amazing to see.
Yeah, there's a group in DC called Maggie's List, which is focused on U.S. Senate and congressional races. And, you know, we hope one day that we could rival Emily's List from the Democrat side. We do have a few other really good women-centered groups in DC, and Elise Stefanik has something she's working on. So, you know, we need to all coalesce, but that's a different conversation. But Maggie's List this year, I'm the Maryland board member. Every state has a board member. I represent Maryland. So I nominated Kim Klacik, who was our Republican woman that had such a meteoric rise to fame. What a great candidate. She's just a wonderful woman. She ran a great campaign in a district that's 4-1. You know, she did not win, but you know, I think when all the votes are totaled, she'll be at about 30%, which I think the last Republican got like 9, so 12, you know, somewhere around there. So she really made huge inroads, and nationally, you know, she's just a superstar, great lady. I'm so thankful that she ran, and of course we love her video and we love her message. But you know, as a board member, we endorsed all of the incumbent women, and they all were reelected. So yay, you know, Susan Collins, the rest of them, they all retained their seats. And then if you could have seen the list of qualified, amazing women that we recruited this year to run, you just wouldn't believe it. So having a great candidate is the first place to start, right? Then you have to have money so that people know what a great candidate they are. But even today, Marianetta Miller Meeks from Iowa today was pronounced the winner, and she beat a Republican, a Democrat incumbent. So, you know, we've got young Kim and Michelle Steele, both Asian American women. Michelle, I think they have announced that she won, and I think young Kim, if it's not tonight, it'll be tomorrow morning. She's about 4,000 votes ahead. Both Asian women winning, beating incumbent Democrats in California, you know, virtually unheard of. So those are just 3 of the great ladies. We're still waiting on Pennsylvania, Lisa Scheller, and a Jamie Herrera Bootler in Washington State. So, you know, we've got amazing women that have run, that have won. So it is absolutely a great year for Republican women. And we haven't even touched on state house races.
Right.
These are just
congressional. Cherry on top of that, which is obviously Amy Coney Barrett taking her spot on the Supreme Court as well. I mean, all those times that the left is saying, oh, the Republicans are just a bunch of white men. And then you take a look at this diverse group of women there, and you're like, I'm sorry, I have to call BS on that, because we really are that Big Tent party that we keep saying that we are.
Yeah, and it is just the media, Jackie, that lies about it. And it, you know, that if a lie is repeated often enough times, people believe it's true. So, yeah, you know, we're proving it's false. But this week I spoke to a group of women at a University of Maryland College Park class. I was invited by one of my colleagues. And one of the questions I got was, you know, is it harder for women to run as Republicans than Democrats? And my Democrat colleague, that she and I were sharing the, you know, bipartisan panel, she's like, oh, absolutely not. It's all the same. So she had my back. I didn't have to make my own case. So you know, we all know it's the same, and we need more women. If you're a woman, you're watching this, you're inspired by Amy Coney Barrett, by Kim Klacik, by, you know, some of these other amazing women, you know, call me, email me, you know, get a hold of Jackie. We need more great women to run for office.
Absolutely.
You know, within Maryland, there's been a little bit of a flurry of discussion about Kim Klasik's campaign, and a lot of it, I wanted to kind of get your take on it, because you've obviously run a challenging race for the U.S. Senate. And I thought Kim deserved a lot of credit. I think for making the issues about Baltimore, the contrast between what Republicans and conservatives would do in Baltimore with frankly, the failed Baltimore Democratic establishment. And in some quarters, there was this kind of assumption that, well, you know, you should treat it like a race that, in some ways I thought they were kind of playing checkers, where you treat it like a race where you're, you know, 55, 45, whatever. And I thought that Kim did a great job playing sort of a long game of raising the issues that she did so effectively. And as you say, producing the results, obviously not necessarily winning, but I think a long game. I wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, you know, what I've heard and seen some criticism of her race, and, you know, of course, as a public figure, you always get criticized personally. All of that is complete baloney. I wish people would stop doing that. But, you know, I think a lot of the criticism was jealousy. You know, she is amazing. She's a wonderful lady with a great message. She's beautiful. You know, I remember when I was listening to Rush Limbaugh in my car, and I heard him say and he obviously has a video component to his radio show. I'm just listening. I've never watched the video component, so I'm listening to him, and he's like, oh, let me tell you about this candidate in Baltimore. She's fantastic. And he played the ad, and then he comes back and he goes, this smoking hot chick in a red dress, you know, and then he played it again. And, you know, I didn't think that was misogynist. I thought it was true. She's a beautiful woman. You know, I'm texting her, I'm calling her, I'm like, holy smokes, you are ready to get the biggest money bomb you ever dreamed of. You know, Rush Limbaugh, the largest radio show in the world, he just gave you a shout out, and not just a shout out. And Sean Hannity picked her up. I mean, and then of course, President Trump and her speaking at the convention, you know, she just really was every candidate's dream. Everyone dreams to catch fire like that, but it wouldn't have happened if she wasn't the right candidate with the right message, with a great team that did an amazing video that exposed what Baltimore City looks like in some areas. You know, not all of Baltimore looks like that. My son and his wife live there. I used to live there. I raised my kids there. But, you know, West Baltimore and the area that she exposed, it is horrible. And it is unacceptable that the Democrats that have run that city for 75 years would let their city look like that. So she had everything going the right way. And I think a lot of that criticism was like armchair quarterbacking, or a lot of it was jealousy that, you know, look at her huge success. So
yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen, there's always those memes that go around. It's like Republican women versus Democrat women. You see the Republican women and there's just like gorgeous, like supermodel looks. And the Democrat women are like, you're not really even sure if what you're looking at's a woman. I always find those really funny.
Yeah,
but,
Kim, she's a beautiful lady inside and out. I know she's not done with, you know, working hard as a Republican, and we need.
And I've always found her story inspiring. You know, I've so many people on the left in Maryland. You keep seeing like in the Maryland politics page, it's like, oh, you know, if you knew about her past, you wouldn't be supporting her or whatever. But honestly, that story of, yeah, I took the cards I was dealt, and I've overcome that and become a successful, you know, and move into a political career. I mean, that should be something that's inspiring to say. You don't need to go to law school to be a good politician. You just need to have the, you know, and on the left, they're all looking at AOC. She was a bartender. and now she's all over and I was going to make another comparison to that later, but just to say that anybody who has that dream, who's inspired to make a change and make a difference, can do that and can be elected. But I was watching, I believe it was Tucker Carlson the other night, and they were talking about the same idea of the year of the Republican woman, and he was interviewing Sarah Palin about this. And exactly what you were talking about does the media really go so much harder on Republican women? And he was talking about, they had that Rolling Stone spread that was, women leading the way, and it was the Squad, and it was Nancy Pelosi. And he said, do you think they'll ever do another cover like that for all the Republican women who got elected this year? And Sarah Palin goes, never. She said, Republican women, I think she's so funny. She goes, you just have to suck it up, Buttercup, and you need to work harder, and you just got to go to work every day and prove yourself. And
it is true. And grow a thick skin, that's everybody that's in politics. But, let's face it, women are, more feelers than thinkers. I'm a thinker, but I'm certainly still a feeler on a certain level. And, somebody just this week was like, you and your, hair cuttery blowout, take your hair cuttery blowout hairstyle. And, I'm like, what? Like, really, you're going to hair shame me? I mean,
and they would do it either way. And it's like, if I rolled out of bed and put my hair in a ponytail, oh, she doesn't care what she looks like. I'm like,
right.
Can't have it both ways.
So I saw someone make a comment about Kim's hair. Kim's hair is beautiful. Like, it's not like natural or whatever. I'm like, and now we're hair shaming Black women after we just passed a bill in Annapolis called the Crown Act, which I voted for, that says women can wear their hair any way they want. Now, I don't think we need a law to say that. I think that's going a step too far. We're putting things in law that don't belong in law. But the point is, Black women, if they want to wear their hair natural or, straightened, or same with me. I mean, women shouldn't be judged or be, required to wear their hair a certain way unless you're in a healthcare setting. Obviously we're using all of our common sense when I make that comment, but I think we're beyond that, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely just politics aside, the amount of pressure that goes into women in terms of looks. I mean, I'm always so jealous of a guy who can roll out of bed and like dress for work. All right, button down shirt, slacks, done. I'm like, all right, does this blouse match these pants? And do my shoes match my blouse? And I'm like, this is just too dang complicated.
Yeah, I'm with you so
I'm
much.
I'm loving the working from home because I just put on sweatpants and call it a day.
Yeah, I mean, you men have it so easy with the uniform that you can put on. But part of it is that's important to us.
So
women,
I think I should probably, before this goes too far that way, this was such a surprising election for Republicans. I thought in sort of kicking it off, one of the early states that came in, it didn't come in all at once, but Susan Collins in Maine had been behind in every single, I looked it up, every single poll showed her behind. And had been all but given up. I will say our forever optimistic Dwight Patel said the day before the election that he had heard good things about the Susan Collins race. I don't know who was whispering in his ear about that, but obviously she ended up coming ahead and winning. And that set the tone for the night, and Republicans doing much better, picking up seats in the House, as we've talked about, and we're now at, I guess, 50 seats. We're waiting on the next 2 seats. As a Republican, how would you comment about how that ended up becoming such a sort of strong, where this blue wave that we saw in 2008 was barely a ripple?
Yeah, I think that the polls obviously were wrong. The Wall Street Journal has a really good editorial about that. It's like almost malfeasance how bad the polls were. And Susan Collins, yeah, I mean, she knows her state. It's a small state. She's represented it well. She's been very independent, so they couldn't like hang any like Trump or some extreme. Not that I think Republicans are extreme, but the Democrats will pick some extreme issue and say, oh, that's who you are. They couldn't do any of that to her. So You know, I think it was a huge victory and also a huge black mark on the pollsters in many, many states, you know, where they got it wrong. We had, you know, but again, she's a good candidate that knows her state. I think we picked up two Hispanic women in Florida that we picked up. And, you know, those women are great. Two women, one in Florida, and I think the other one in Iowa, are TV news broadcasters. So these ladies are, you know, obviously ready for TV. So, you know, they are ready to communicate. They're ready to get out there and, you know, reach the public through that domain. And that's so powerful. You know, look, we're here videotaping this, and, you know, 10 years ago, it would have been some kind of audio thing. But,
Right.
you know, people are technology is moving along, and having people that can already communicate on that venue is amazing. These women are smart, they're beautiful, they're well-spoken, they know the issues, you know, they can raise money. Look out. Kelly Ayotte 4 years ago lost her US Senate race by, what was it? In New Hampshire by like 1,600 votes. And, you know, there's some question about, you know, did people from neighboring Massachusetts vote there? But, you know, that's all water under the bridge at this point. But today, Kelly Ayotte and Nikki Haley posted a picture on Facebook or Twitter of 30 brand new elected women in New Hampshire. So, you know, this huge class of women that Kelly Ayotte didn't go away. She didn't take her toys and go home. She stayed involved. She stayed recruiting women. And, you know, this amazing photo of these 30 women. Now they have like, I don't know how many members they have of their legislature. It's some ridiculous number.
400 in the House. This is, and this is
in New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire, yeah. But the good news there, and this is obviously a topic that's near and dear to your heart, was that in addition to electing all those women, the control in New Hampshire, both in the Senate and the House, flipped to the Republicans.
Yeah, we got both those chambers. Isn't that so exciting? And yeah, you know, that blue wave that wasn't even really a ripple, you know, in state races across this country, we picked up more than 71 seats in state houses across the country on Tuesday of last week. 70, I may be up to 75. I haven't gotten the latest count today because some we're still hanging in the balance. You know, we held seats in West Virginia. We won seats we never should have won because Trump was at the top of the ballot. You know, something that's a little foreign to us in Maryland, right? You know, Trump at the top of the ballot, pushing somebody over, you know, but in West Virginia and other places where Trump is immensely popular, he helped down ballot candidates get elected. And West Virginia saw some of that going on. They have super majorities in the House and Senate now in West Virginia. And I think, you know, 10, 15 years ago, it was a Democrat controlled legislature.
I think even more recent than 10 years. I mean, it has been dramatic what's happened in that state.
Yeah, and really just seeing the diversity of the women who've been elected opens up that door. And I think also, you know, President Trump has done a great job in helping us with that down ballot, is opening up that door to being able to reach, you know, the African-American voter and the Latino voter. You know, two of what's probably, I believe we're saying, are the two biggest voting blocks that we have coming out, you know, and they are growing every single election cycle. That I feel like one of the biggest takeaways from this election, other, you know, from women aside, is that we have a tremendous opportunity as a Republicans to keep those two demographics and really to show them that we are the party of people that actually care about you. We don't see you as just a vote. We see you as an individual who has a family that they want to protect, who has a job that they want to grow, a career they want to grow. And I feel like that's the opportunity that Republicans need to continue to, even in not an election year, but to continue to reach out to these voters and to hear them and to represent.
Yeah, I agree. And that is one thing that I think Kim Klacik did well. And, you know, why we need to recruit more African Americans to run and win on the GOP side, because you're right. You know, we believe in the individual. We believe in individual freedom, liberty, individual responsibility, property rights, low taxes. You make better decisions with your family and your budget than the government does. Lots of these just common main principles, foundations of our philosophy of government. And you can just look at the Democrats going towards socialism, with this crazy defund the police stuff. That's not what people in, at-risk communities want to hear. So it is up to us to do a better job reaching into those communities, because the Democrats do a good job every election, but then they're gone. And then they're gone. And so we have to do a better job. I'm, committed to doing that.
Yeah. And I definitely think, Kim's method of, obviously I don't think she planned to have a viral video, but definitely it helped. But what she was doing and exposing, this is what decades of Democrat control in Baltimore has gotten you. Maybe it's time to try something different. I'm wondering if we're going to see candidates in Philadelphia, in Detroit, in cities like that, kind of be inspired by that and try to emulate that the next time that they run.
Yeah, I hope so. And I think so. And we can't, how do you eat the elephant one bite at a time? We have to keep working at it and keep working at it. And I think as the left, the AOC and the squad, go farther left and talk about things that, are really limousine liberal things, banning styrofoam, banning fossil fuels, stuff like that. That is not helping, that part of the Democrat Party.
Absolutely. Yeah. The big thing I've been saying is that, in my personal opinion, is I feel like we almost have three parties at this point. We have the Republicans, and then we have the moderate Democrats, and then we have the progressives. And I think that they're definitely seeing that fracture within the Democrat Party that in no way is going to do them any good if they're all divided. And I know that they're all trying to stack Biden's cabinet right now with as far left people as possible. And I know we've been saying, on some of our other streams, I think that the best possible thing that Biden could ask for would be if we maintain control of the Senate, because then he has a reason to say, oh, sorry, I couldn't get your super progressive things passed this year.
Yeah. And right before we went live, we were chatting, Mark and Jackie and I, about the Georgia race, and, hoping that Purdue pulls that out. We should never go to that kind of runoff election situation in Maryland. You can see it just costs more money. And, Purdue will beat, Ossoff will be a 3-time loser. But Kelly Loeffler, the Democrat in that race, only got like 35%. So, I think she's going to be, or maybe that was the top Democrat. Were there other Democrats in that race?
Yes, there were. I mean, it was roughly, when you total up the Republican votes and the Democratic, it was a competitive race, because of course there were two very active Republicans in that in her race.
Well, I'm not really sure what the Jewish population is like in Georgia, but I think a heck of a thing that we can run off is Kelly Loeffler's opponent has called Israel an apartheid state, is very anti-Israel. And I think, as a Jewish woman, that's something that terrifies me with a lot of these progressive lefties who are, very much against the state of Israel. They're already asking, I know Iran's already reached out asking for Biden to move the Israeli embassy back to Tel Aviv. These are issues that I feel like if you're trying to connect with voters on a more personal level, if you're reaching out to Jewish voters and you're saying, do you really want to vote for someone who doesn't think that Israel has a right to exist as the Jewish state? Finding those commonalities when you're knocking doors and when you're on the phone, that's what's going to win us these runoff races.
Yeah, I think I can only imagine how much money is going to pour into Georgia. Voters are going to be so sick of it.
Yes.
But, it is so important for each one of us to do what we can, because, we need to keep Mitch McConnell. That guy is amazing.
So
Go
ahead.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to make the observation about Mitch McConnell and obviously the race in South Carolina. Between those two races, the Democrats managed to raise $200 million. It probably is a sort of to the advantage of Republicans that they ended up wasting so much time going after Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, because there were probably other races that would have been more effective for them. So
yeah, I agree. And I know one of the pollster, it might have been Tucker Carlson, who pointed out that these disingenuous fraud, fake polls, we'll call them fake news. We might as well call them fake polling because they're, so far off the mark. That's how that guy against Lindsey Graham raised all that money. And I know as a candidate, if I can go to a donor and say, this race is winnable, here's a poll that proves it, you're going to get people to buy into your race. And, we've got to find a better way to, these were public polls that showed that this guy could beat Lindsey Graham. I'm sure you guys thought the same thing. Common sense would say, no way. Right. Lindsey Graham is on TV constantly as the head of the Judiciary Committee, and he's doing great things. And he's not some extremist. He was standing up for the rule of law. He was handling himself very professionally. He was getting so much free earned media from that exposure. I just couldn't imagine that South Carolinians would not reelect him.
Right. And I've always thought that this was a crazy idea when I was first, showing an interest in politics is, oh my God, they're spending millions and millions of dollars on these races. I get it, having to pay your staff and everything, but all this money towards advertising, everything like that, in my opinion, and because we do, small Facebook ads for some of our content here, and it doesn't cost millions of dollars. I've always said, I think the most effective campaign, if I ever ran for an office, would be to take all of that money and put it towards helping my community. Because I was like, is that an effective? I think you'd pick up a lot of free PR that way, but also it's like, you're making a difference with that money instead of like plunging it into something that may or may not pan out. And if people actually see, like, I want to run for office because I want to help my community, and you're actually just going out and helping your community with that money, I think that could be a really good grassroots campaign. Maybe try that out on a smaller campaign and maybe not like something big like president or senate. But I think that would be really, really interesting because so much of that money I feel like just gets wasted when you could be actually helping your community with it, which is what I think anybody actually wants out of an elected official.
Well, there probably is a point of diminishing returns with money like that. I think, I've cut the cord for television. So this was the first election. I've seen some of the TV ads. Obviously, I saw the Kelly Kim's video, but I didn't see a single over-the-air television ad, which of course was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, where 80% of the money was spent in big campaigns. And so that aspect of it has completely changed.
Yeah.
I think we'll see more of that in about 10 years. Today, broadcast TV, for instance, when I ran against Chris Van Hollen 4 years ago, just to get my name ID up, just so people, had heard of my name before they went into the polling place. The only place to really do that is on broadcast TV because you're getting everybody. And I couldn't afford any of the network stuff in Montgomery County. I did cable. I did a good TV buy in Baltimore, in the Baltimore DMA, and that cost me about $400,000. But Jackie, you sound like my husband. My husband says that all the time. They should take those millions and feed poor people and help communities and, do good things for the community.
Your race, you did something good with the money. But I know, and Mark, you make a really great point. I work in marketing, and when I look at some of the media buys that we do, it's very little of that money is going towards TV these days because, everyone is on, we're looking at social media advertising. We're looking at, putting things on like Pandora or Spotify advertising, YouTube. That's really where it's at. And I think actually AOC, and I hate saying this, made a really good point. All these people that were blaming, they're saying, we didn't win our races because of your progressive crap with defund the police or whatever. And she goes, no, you didn't win your races because during a pandemic, you didn't invest any money in digital advertising.
Yeah, she's really going to be somebody to watch in the digital advertising space. She's put a huge investment in there. And look,
she played games on Twitch as a fundraiser.
She is like the meteoric candidate herself, right? We all know her name. Yeah. AOC. And how long has she been in office? 4 years?
2 years.
Yeah, this would only be her second term.
Yeah. So here she is, with a household name, and she's done it. It's creative. While we don't like her policies, you have to at least admire her meteoric rise and how she's really capitalized on that to give her such high name ID.
You know, it's interesting. We don't like her policies, and as somebody who was in New York, I moved to down here in the mid '90s when, frankly, the Republicans took over the House. But I was there when the early years for Giuliani, and I can think of just no other place where there was such a dramatic change, where we had the opportunity to put Republican and as conservative as you could get in New York City policies in, and change in policing, change in schools and what have you. And what a dramatic change it made in the quality of life in the city. So it was unimaginable to me back then that Brooklyn, which was perceived as being so unsafe, I lived in Brooklyn Heights, which was a nice neighborhood, but neighborhoods that were essentially no-go zones for most of the time that I was in New York, because the safety was addressed, you know, the policing and crime was addressed, suddenly began to flourish and now are attracting lots of people, lots of activity. And the shame of that is with the AOC and with the current mayor, de Blasio, is to see those gains that were made by very sound policies end up getting reversed.
That's good to know there was policy, because I actually have this conversation with my dad a lot, who grew up in Canarsie in Brooklyn. And I remember I had this conversation with him once. I said, Dad, I really want to go to Smorgasburg in Brooklyn. And he said, what is that? I said, this is food festival. I said, it's in Williamsburg. He said, we can't go there. He's like, you don't go there. I said, what do you mean? I said, that's where all the young people live. It's like the coolest place to be right now. It's insane. So I never realized that was, you know, due to a change in policy. I thought it was just gentrification.
Yeah, but the gentrification, there was a lot of gentrification that took place, but a lot of it was because neighborhoods that were, you know, East New York, that were perceived as not being safe, suddenly changed.
Yeah.
Well, but do you think that people that live there today still, I'm sure you still have family and friends there, you know, Manhattan and New York City has seen such a drastic change. You know, it's really sad how dirty and
Well,
you know, it's dangerous.
And that is really the other side of that, which is to see in a relatively short period of time the shift back that has taken place under de Blasio, and where, you know, where when Amazon was ready to go to New York City, you got AOC saying, no, we don't want all those jobs. You can see really how much, I mean, that's true, but you can see how much politics at a local level, you know, the difference in policies can make a dramatic change in the outcomes of regular people's lives.
Yeah, and definitely now they need a strong leader to come in there, because being so devastated by the pandemic as well. With, you know, we're going to see these massive shifts away from the cities as people are going to be permanently remote working. They're not going to pay, you know, Manhattan prices when they don't need to live there for work, and all the restaurants, unfortunately, are closing down, you know.
Oh, I know. Look at the entertainment, right? I mean,
I'm a Broadway girl. It's killing me that, like, I don't know when we're gonna get Broadway back. And even, you know, you can't run a Broadway theater at half capacity, and these actors can't afford to live on, you know, if restaurants are closing, they don't have their side jobs, you know, bartending, waitressing, that goes away. You know, I think we're seeing a huge devastation in live theater, and that's killing me on the inside.
Yeah, it is. And it's a great study on economic policy, right? You know, and the response of different parties and people to COVID, and, you know, how obviously the loss of life is paramount, and we have to, you know, always keep that at the top of our minds, but we also have to consider everything else too.
Yeah. I mean, definitely the effects on mental health as well. People are saying, oh my God, well, we have to protect all these people from dying from COVID. Well, the number of people dying because of suicide, because they can't deal with the effects of being locked up like this anymore, I think it's equally as important in terms of a health crisis in this country.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that took a somber turn.
Yeah, that was interesting, going from, you know, the year of the woman to COVID. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely, I think we should address, as we're coming up on the end of the show, going back to the Year of the Woman, we have 2022 is not as far off as you think it is. People who are interested in getting involved for the midterms, time to start thinking about it. Please, 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 if you're a woman, if you're anybody at all who wants to get involved, reach out to us, reach out to me, reach out to Kathy. We want to help you. We want to get you, all the support that you need, because we're always looking for strong candidates. And now is the time. If you're inspired by any of the women, any of the minority people that you've seen take office this year, we want to see you get out there, and we want to help you do it.
Yeah, we'll have redistricting. So 2022, all of the districts will look different. You have some amazing candidates. Laurie Halverson, top-notch candidate, great lady, wonderful story. Unfortunately, she was running in a district that was really, really tough, and, didn't really have the coattails of Hogan that we thought we would have. But, having new districts, I think there's, especially in Western Montgomery County, we're going to see a lot of opportunities there. Western part of Montgomery County is not a liberal bastion. When I was running 4 years ago, I was in some parades out in that part of Montgomery County, and they had huge Trump floats and people like yelling and so happy for Donald Trump. And I had to say, yep, I'm not in the other part of Montgomery County. Not all of Montgomery County is a unitary super Democrat county.
I don't even know what part of Montgomery County I'm in. I'm so bad at geography. Yeah. So, and also we want to give people some information about what's going on in Georgia, how you can get involved. Obviously, we're very, very focused right now on the Senate runoff, and if one good thing could come out of the ballot recount, maybe it'll push Purdue right over the edge, and then we only have to focus on one runoff. But the Young Republicans will have a deployment over New Year's, so that's December 31st to January 3rd. We'll have more information when signups come out, but we're really, really looking to get people, boots on the ground. I know that there's already, I think, over 100 YRs committed to going across the country to Georgia to help out with that. We're going to have phone banking. I know there's plenty of organizations that are helping to raise money for the campaigns there. So that's one way to get involved. Kathy, I'm sure you guys have some other ways of getting involved as well.
Yeah, I think boots, obviously people who can't go, give money. Every bit is important. But boots on the ground, I'm so thrilled to hear that the YRs are doing that. The election is January 4th or 5th? 5th. So that is the election. And, the polls have been so wrong because it's hard to reach people on the phone. So, door knocking and, being able to build coalitions and do things in person, I think is key. So any of you YRs or CRs out there listening, if you can, do your classes remotely and go to Georgia and help out in that race, it is so, so important. One or two of them will be on the ballot. And like you said, right now we're at 48 Dems, 50 Republicans. We need to keep Mitch in there. We need to keep the check on, if Biden is, truly elected, we certainly need to make sure there's a check there and give Mitch McConnell all the tools he needs to be, the great speaker or leader, Senate leader. So, yeah.
Yes. And if you can't be there in person, we always have phone banking and texting as well. So
yes. Yeah. Both of those are great. And there'll be, so look at, the MDGOP, Jackie, me, look on social media. There'll be lots of places to plug in. Mark, I'm sure you and Dwight will have things out.
Right.
Be
whoever
great
you
to
write to, somebody will be able to hook you up with the right person.
Yeah, it'd be great to get some phone banks going, or, with the COVID, you can do it from home. You can, they'll send you a link. You can dial right through on your computer and reach people, know who you're reaching with the script and everything. It's really important.
Yes.
We
and Kelly Loeffler, to end with Republican women, she's the candidate. She is amazing, a businesswoman, highly qualified. Really, she got appointed to fill the seat when Johnny Isakson had to step down because of health issues. She is the real deal. She is a great candidate and somebody worth investing time and money in.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah, we're closing out 5 minutes early. So Kathy, is there anything else that you wanted to plug while you have the time and you have the mic?
Yeah, listen, I'm so happy that people are still engaged. I believe we need to let every vote be counted. I've had a lot of questions about, the current state of affairs with the presidential election, but, I think they still haven't called Alaska, and which is crazy to me, right?
They called it today, actually.
Did they call it today? I kept checking back in.
I think they called at least the congressional races.
And the U.S. Senate or not? I don't think they called the U.S. Senate race.
I don't know. They started calling.
They did.
They did. Okay.
Yep.
But here we are today, just calling North Carolina and Alaska. So that's why we're at 50 Republicans in the Senate. And, so if you were one of those voters that you were worried about, was your vote counted? Did your vote count? We need to make sure we've counted all the votes, and then, we'll go from there. So, no need to rush this. It took 37 days when George Bush was finally selected as our president in 2000. But we'll have redistricting from an Annapolis perspective in 2022. There's going to be a lot of opportunities with new maps, Senate maps, House of Delegates maps. So it really going to be exciting, and I'm working hard on candidate recruitment. Delegate Nick Kipke, my partner, the leader in the House of Delegates, he's working on redistricting. So we have a great education package coming out, crime package. And of course, we'll have some election bills come out, because the Maryland's election was not without problems. They couldn't post the election day results until days after the election. Right. There were some, quote, technical glitches. They put the voter data on a thumb drive. I'm just not convinced that it's secure. So we have a lot of questions on that we'll need to have answered.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Kathy, for joining us. Thank you, Mark, for co-hosting with me. Thank you, all of you, for watching. We will be back next week with another guest and another topic, and we hope you have a great evening.
See ya.